Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Monday morning, I was up and down at the gym by 6. I cleaned up and ate by 7, before going downstairs to walk across the street at 7:30. Street traffic was low, so I looked to see if there were any parked cars to worry about, and started out. My cane became stuck in one of those stupid open grates they have in the sidewalk. This caused me to begin to fall. As I was going down, there was something smacking the pavement and sidewalk near me with a whining sound. I finally realized that someone was shooting at me, so I abandoned my cane and hopped back to the hotel door. The hotel lobby marshal saw what was happening and was immediately out of the hotel looking up toward the parking garage. He was on his radio, and in just seconds, men were coming from the federal building running toward the garage. Just as they reached the garage, a white Ford Victoria roared out of the garage and down the street. Two of the marshals kept running to the garage, roaring out in one of the pursuit vehicles. Meanwhile, the hotel marshal was making sure I wasn't hit before going out into the street to pull my cane free of the grate. I said, "This is the first time I've ever been happy my cane got stuck in one of those grates. I wonder why the guy quit shooting. It looks like he fired only 4 rounds and quit." I went back across the street, this time with a man on each side of me, went through the metal detectors, and up to the office. The first thing Serena did was to interview me as to what had just occurred. She typed the interview up quickly and had me sign it. Next, she wanted the list of all the videos I had watched. She filled out a marshal training form and listed all of them and their grade value. She had another stack of videos that were required viewing by new marshals. She said I might as well be gaining knowledge in the correct order. Howard came in saying, "The shooter got away. There's no way to track a white Ford Victoria in a Florida city that probably has 2,000 or 3,000 of them on the street at any one time. You were lucky out there, Johnson. I'll bet you look at rooftops from now on. Don't just look at street level. Always check areas that would give a shooter a line of sight to a target. You'll learn." He introduced me to another marshal who would be accompanying me for the day. "Go to work, stick to your routine. That's probably the safest thing you can do right now. Your predictable home, work, repeat. You're only vulnerable when you're out in public." He paused, shaking his head. I'm surprised they went through with it so openly. This guy's bold. The marshal assigned to me asked, "Want to head down to the range? They've got all the ammo you could ask for. Let's work on your shooting a bit, get you sharper with your sidearm." We both grabbed ear protection and checked out 50 rounds each of practice ammunition. I emptied my magazine and reloaded it with the training rounds. My first set of shots all hit the target, but the pattern was scattered, with a few landing near the edges. The second round tightened a bit, all within the body outline, but still wide. By the 5th round, I had a tight grouping centered around the head of the target. The marshal I was with was just slightly better with his Glock. He said that I was a hell of a lot better shot than most of the guys in the marshal service. He said most of them had to slowly fire single rounds at a time. We had rapid-fired 10 rounds in each set. We policed our brass to turn in and reloaded our magazines with our original rounds. I asked the range officer if he had a cleaning kit. He pulled out one made specifically for my weapon and one for a Glock. We stripped our pistols, cleaned them thoroughly, and put them back together. When we were both done, we thanked the range officer and left for my car. Instead of playing tag, we were going to take only one vehicle today. At my office, I checked in with Ms. White, who had already been informed of my close call this morning. She asked my watchdog if he thought I would attract any danger to the building. He didn't think so, but he said he would be watchful. Ms. White said that a lady would be up to help me shortly. She told me that I could use the office next to mine for the new person and to make sure I gave good directions in order to help the people we were hired to help. As soon as I entered my office, the phone was ringing. It was a response from the ad. I made the man an appointment for later this morning and began looking at several message slips. It took me until the time of my appointment to return the calls that had come in and to set up appointments. The new lady came in, we quickly discussed what our goals were, and I asked her to interview our new client with me. My first official client was not out of service yet, but wanted to look for work before deciding whether to re-enlist or not. We went over the pros and cons of military life. He was single and had just turned 21. By the time the interview was over, he was convinced to re-enlist for both the bonus and the rank he had been offered. The recruiting office should give me a spiff. At lunchtime, my shadow and I had to order from the sandwich shop. I had a nice time talking to the 5 girls and several of the other folks in the lunchroom. Brandy said she would call me later as she had something to ask me. The appointments in the afternoon were okay, nothing special, except that I did have a man from Wells Fargo Security come to give me parameters of the type of people they looked for. He had regular security jobs open, as well as transport or armored car positions. I thanked the man for being my first official employer. I wrote up my ad results report, describing the 11 calls that were a result of the ads. There might be more during the rest of the week as the Sunday paper tends to hang around a while. The new lady had a list of people she wanted to begin calling to see if jobs might be available. Brandy called me from her counter position and asked, "Are you allowed to go out, or are you stuck in the hotel?" "Pretty much stuck," I answered. "How about a few of us come up to your room and play cards or games tonight? It might be fun and definitely better than being by yourself." "I'd love that, Brandy. If you guys want, whoever's coming should come early and have dinner with me. I also eat with the guy who is upstairs watching out for me. He'll join us. I'll talk to the others to see who all will come. If I'm the only one, you're in for a treat. I'll bring my nightie and we'll have a slumber party. Oh my, be still my heart. I'm not going to want a crowd then. Listen, when you guys get to the hotel, you have to ask at the desk to go up to my room. That way the downstairs people can tell the upstairs guy you're coming." "Got it. I'll definitely see you later, especially for the free food." By 5, all 5 girls had called saying they were coming. They were going to bring some chips, games, and a couple decks of cards. My shadow and I went back to the garage and walked to the hotel. He said, "You've had an interesting day. It was enjoyable to be with you. Maybe I'll get to do it again tomorrow." I told the downstairs guy at the hotel that some girls were coming in a little while. He surprised me by saying the elevator car had been replaced and was working fine. I told the upstairs guy about the visitors, and he was excited, looking forward to see some cuties. After quickly changing out of my dress clothes, I called to see what this evening's special was. They were having veal scallopini tonight. That sounded good, but it would still need to be warm. Right at 6, 5 girls came in. They were typical women and had to explore the penthouse, looking outside on the terrace patio and all around. They were impressed with the sliding wall that exposed the bar. I fixed each of them a drink and asked if they all liked veal scallopini. I got yes all around, so I called down and ordered 7 veal dinners with the appropriate wine, veggies, and dessert. We were soon dining with a marshal. We had salad and veal over rice with thick sauce over all of it. The meal was accompanied with some asparagus, some great mild wine, and capped with some sherbet, a really great meal. All of us were full after the meal and decided to play some cards while listening to jazz from the cable. Nora had brought a bag of pretzel sticks, so we divided them up and played poker. Frida was the poker player and soon had most of everyone's pretzels. Tiani's went the fastest, as she was nibbling on them while also using them to bet with. Judy was doing pretty well too, and I was probably in 3rd place. We played cards till almost 10 when the girls said it was time to go home. All but Brandy left after each giving me a kiss. Brandy gave me a very warm kiss saying, "I told you I was staying. Is that okay?" "That is wonderful. Brandy, do you want a drink or can I get you something else?" "Just you. Let's shower and get in bed. I think we'll figure out something to do." The phone rang. It was the downstairs guy saying he was missing one of the girls that had gone up. I told him she was staying over and he laughed, obviously holding the other 4 there until he knew what was going on. He said goodnight and hung up. The night was very nice. Our playtime was energetic enough that we had to take another shower about midnight. Brandy said that she should be fine if we woke at 6, so we snuggled up and enjoyed a satisfying night's sleep. I got Brandy off for home to change for work and went to the gym for an hour. After breakfast, I checked in at the marshal's office and with my same shadow, went to work. I had another excellent day, lining up another employer and actually referring 2 retired men to Wells Fargo. My bank even gave me a formal request that we were able to complete via fax. My shadow and I were on our way back to the garage, the office, and the hotel. I noticed a white Ford Victoria riding close to my back bumper, trying to find space in the traffic to get in the lane beside us. Since the car was acting strange, I told the marshal with me. He pulled his weapon and chambered a round. I was amazed that he didn't have a chambered round already. He was smart though, as he didn't turn to look, but made sure I was keeping track of them. We were coming up to a cross street that didn't have any houses on it. The marshal called in to tell control of our location and our situation. I changed to the right lane, with the car following us changing lanes as well. I signaled the turn while watching the car. He didn't signal and dropped back just a little. My marshal told me to go most of the way down the block, pull over, and get down in the seat. He would exit his side and be ready to fire immediately. When I turned the corner, it almost looked like the car following us wasn't going to turn, but did follow us at the last second. I had sped up and was able to slide to a stop with the marshal getting out immediately while the car was coming up behind us. As it slid to a stop, I could hear rounds going off from behind hitting the Mustang and shattering the rear glass. I could hear the marshal just outside the car firing. I slid across the seat, over the console, keeping low and went out the door, going around to the front of the car. When I looked at the Ford, the guy in the passenger seat was hanging out the window, obviously out of the fight. The driver was kneeling beside the car behind the open front door concentrating on the marshal. When he rose up to fire, I quickly put 2 rounds in his head, causing him to fall backward. The marshal hollered that he was going to approach the car. He checked the guy hanging out the window looking for a pulse in his neck before he checked the guy I had shot on the other side of car. He lowered his automatic and holstered it. I did the same, finally standing. The marshal said, "You shouldn't have gotten out of the car. You are my responsibility. You did good though. You waited until you had a clean shot and took the guy out. I got to call in and get the bureau out here." I could hear sirens coming as he called in the attempt and the result. He was told to keep any locals away as the FBI would want to roll on this. Their crime scene team would want to run the show. A Tampa squad car came sliding up with a cop jumping out grabbing for his weapon. The marshal and I held up our badges with our other arm raised. The cop approached and checked our ID before approached the dead guys. My babysitter deputy said, "Don't touch. The FBI is on their way and will want the scene to be clean. Let's let them move anything that's to be moved. If you have markers, you might want to get them out and mark shell casings for them as well as us." Another 2 Tampa cars and an unmarked car came sliding to a stop. The marshal went through his speech about the FBI and asked them to stay clear of the scene. They were not happy, but that's the way it had to be. The unmarked car was a detective who brought out a camera and began taking pictures from every angle he could get. 2 unmarked cars arrived. One had Howard and the assistant marshal in charge in it, and the other had 4 FBI agents. A second later, an FBI CSI team arrived. They were instantly taking pictures and began going through the 2 dead guys' clothes, laying out the various things from their pockets. When they popped the trunk, they hollered to call an ambulance. In the trunk was an older guy that looked dehydrated. He was tied up with duct tape over his mouth. One of the detectives said, "That's Jennings from out in the county." They put out a missing persons report on him and his vehicle. Check these tags to see who they belong to. This is a county sheriff's car. The men there slowly lifted the man from the trunk and were pouring water over his mouth after they had removed the duct tape. An ambulance showed up to take care of the county officer and soon left for the hospital. Everyone at the scene was hoping for his recovery. Meanwhile, 2 of the FBI guys, accompanied by the Tampa detectives, had me and my shadow separated, giving them our individual versions of what had happened. The interviews took about 15 minutes. We were just finishing when a news van pulled up with people piling out. Howard began yelling for the uniforms to get those people out of here, as this was a sensitive crime scene that was not for public consumption. There was a lot of yelling that they had the right to cover a shooting or any public crime. The cops just told them that if they ever wanted access to something that wasn't sensitive, they better get out of there. They reluctantly loaded up and left. My marshal and I kept down in the seat of the car, so we weren't visible to the camera while they had been out. Howard came over and said to me, "You aren't going to be popular with the guys. You let those bad guys shoot up the Mustang. This is the most popular car in the fleet. I've already called the pool so they can fix this thing tonight. It'll be good as new by morning. This is the 3rd time the car has been shot. It's not very lucky." It took till almost 7:30 before they hauled the dead guys away and loaded up the Victoria and hauled it off. The boss, Howard, said, "Drive this thing back to the garage, but park it downstairs by the shop. They are expecting you. Doug and I are going home." On the way back to the garage, I commented to my deputy marshal, "This is the 3rd time they've shot at me. I'm starting to get pissed. Too bad both of those guys are dead. I would love to hang one out the window to find out who hired him. I wonder if they have anything else from the original goons we had up in the office. Let me check on them and see where they are." He used his radio and asked for the 10 to 20 of the suspects that had been in our office when the attack went down last week. Whoever was manning the radio said they were being held in federal private custody in the lockup there. I asked my marshal, "Are you married?" He shook his head no, so I asked, "Want to go to Reggie's for supper?" He answered, "I'll have to ask if that's all right. Let me call in." When he called, Howard answered back right away and said it was fine, but to be watchful. He told us to call the restaurant before we went though, as they were really busy since Papa's was closed. We turned in the Mustang and checked out a surveillance car, an ugly green Malibu. I called Reggie's and asked for Reggie, saying I was a Fed. Reggie came on the phone and asked, "What do you want, Howard?" When I told him it was me, he said, "Come on over. Metairie is here. You can eat with us." I told him I had someone attached to my hip. He told me to bring him too. "Park in the back. I'll tell security what you driving." We parked in the back of the restaurant and went in the back door through the kitchen. We went to Reggie's office and knocked. We heard, "Just a second." Reggie opened the door with his shirt partially unbuttoned and no tie. He had a shit-eating grin on his face as he greeted us. Ms. White was still straightening her clothes too, blushing a little. We were catching up on some home life. Business has been too good in this restaurant lately. This place is the star right now. We had a great shrimp scampi dinner, along with drinks and wine. We chatted about several things, but never touching on my activities. Ms. White asked my marshal, "Are you guys going to steal my new agent?" "If we can, ma'am. He's already proven himself in a couple of hairy situations. I'd love to have him as a partner. The service needs men like him." Even the FBI inquired about him. Ms. White said to me, "I guess I'll have to up your salary to compete with these other agencies. I'll fight for you, Chad. We really need some young male blood in the agency, especially some that's honest. After eating, I let the marshal drive us back, as I had had several drinks. Once we parked, we checked the street thoroughly before he accompanied me to the hotel. We said goodbye, and I checked in with the downstairs man and went upstairs. The hall guy was someone I didn't know, so I got acquainted with him and went inside to get ready for bed. It was nice to get off my stump tonight. It was a little sore from standing so much earlier. I had twisted the mount around, and that bruised me a little, so I would be tender for a couple of days. I stretched out in bed and was quickly asleep. At 6, I was on my way to the gym, followed by breakfast and a guarded walk to the office. My shadow was there waiting, and I asked him if we could go down to the range. I wanted to clean my weapon, and I was 2 rounds short. While down there, I asked for the combat series on the range and loaded 3 additional magazines they loaned me. The range positions were automated and were pulled back and multiple obstacles were positioned. The range officer walked me through their combat series first and did it again to explain the best angles to fire. He said the first series wouldn't give me any decisions, all targets. 40 rounds later, I felt pretty good that I had scored a 90. That was good in my way of thinking for a first run. I loaded my magazines while my partner did the series, and next it was my turn for the decision series. This you had to be a lot more accurate, and you were not ever as fast. I had 40 rounds in 120 seconds. Top scores were about 90% hits in 75 to 90 seconds. The decision series seemed easier than the target series. I was done in 87 seconds with 5 rounds left, scoring a 94. My partner said, "Holy shit, that's got to be damn near top score at the range." The range officer said, "You'll have to meet January. She's an FBI babe that is really good. She's going to some competitions this summer. You two might want to team up. Don't get doe-eyed over her, though. I think she hunts in the other forest, if you know what I mean." I smiled and nodded. The officer advised us, she does a consistent over 90 and right at 70 seconds. It's really neat to watch her. Come just after lunch, she shoots almost every day, even weekends when she isn't on duty or gone somewhere. We cleaned up our brass and our weapons. I begged a couple of extra rounds so I would have full magazine. My martial partner, Ted, wanted to go upstairs a minute before we left. He went to Howard, who was talking to Serena and a couple of guys. The boy wonder just shot a 94 in 87 seconds. "What do you think about that?" Serena said, "You and Jan should get together. Maybe you can change her persuasion if you shoot with her." Howard said, "Leave FBI girls alone. They try to steal my men all the time." Ted and I walked to the garage to find the Mustang ready to go. His radio went off. "Ted, Chad, come back to the office. The boys from downstairs need to talk to you." We walked back to find 2 FBI guys in the office. The one said, "A federal judge just signed a writ of habeas corpus on Papa. I don't know how they knew he was here, but they served it in our office. We have the federal attorney general's office working on an appeal, as we want the guy classified as a terrorist. I wanted to let you know the man might be getting out. We'll find out by noon." Howard said, "Call Ms. White and tell her you have to stay here for a while. The way it's going, she might as well hire someone else for that job. It's going to be a while before you're back among the unwatched." One of the FBI guys said, "The Beltway guys tell us that this group you've run into is national in scope and probably has every major underworld guy in the states involved. It's just another of their lucrative businesses. They're going to be pissed for a while for us catching on. You, Mr. Johnson, will be the object of their passion for a good while. They just hate to let someone like you get off. It's a thing they have." Howard said, "He's just trying to tell you that we may have to put you into the Federal Witness Protection Program. That's where we change your identity and put you somewhere no one will look for you. I think I'll take my chances here for a while, at least until you guys get tired of boarding me." Serena smiled. "We can keep you just like you are for 6 months before we have to begin convincing you to go into the program." I looked at Howard and the FBI guys. "Instead of that, let's just clean this thing up and make it too hot for any of them to continue their hunt for revenge." An FBI guy said, "Phew, that's a lot of dead guys. You know those damn bullets can get you too." I nodded. Serena said, "Come with me, honey, I want you to have something." The guys all hooted and hollered that Serena was going to give me something very special. She blushed and said, "I wish," softly as we were going into the supply closet. "What's your jacket size, honey?" "This is a 44, Serena." She thumbed through a bunch of vests and pulled one out. "Put this on under your shirt. These are all Type 4 vests. This will stop everything up to a 50 caliber. You're still going to get broken ribs and bruises, but it's better than dead." Serena added, "That's why you're taught to do headshots in some situations. Most everyone goes for the body. It's a bigger target. If you get hit, even with a vest on, it's going to knock you down. Hopefully, you'll still be alert and able to defend yourself." I tried it on, and it fit nice and close. The material was surprisingly thin, so you didn't bulge out because of the vest. I tucked in my shirt, and Serena said, "Let me," as she tied my tie and helped me on with my coat. She gave me a sweet kiss on the lips. Wear this and take care of yourself. Back out in the office area, Howard noted the vest. Good idea. Should have thought of that before. Hey Ted, get a vest. Or at least remember to wear yours tomorrow. Ted nodded and headed toward the supply closet. Howard took a call and cursed as he slammed the phone back into the cradle. We have to let that slime ball out. The judge is only asking $50,000 for bail. Howard looked confused and got back on the phone. How does he rate only 50 when we have him cold on conspiracy to commit murder? I could only hear this side of conversation. What do you mean we don't have enough evidence? We have witnesses. Huh? How? Damn. How did somebody get at them? Who is it? No way. How in the hell did they get to him? Oh shit. I'll be right down. I want to help. Howard looked around and said, all of you, come on. We have to help the boys downstairs. One of theirs is in trouble. We all went into the FBI offices and right through the reception area into the main office. Howard said, okay, McAlley, all of it, so we can all hear it. We found the 3 guys we were keeping in private custody, cold this morning. Papa was down there too, but his was fine. We pulled the video of the rooms and saw Billy D come in and go to each of the 3 guys' cells and leave. Billy wasn't on duty, and when we checked the sign-in logs, his name didn't show up. We had the video, so we picked him up out at his house. He kept saying he can't leave because some people had kidnapped his wife and his 2 daughters. They were going to hold them until he offed the 3 stooges we were holding. The agent continued. We left, except we left Charlie Martin with him. About 15 minutes later, a guy calls and tells Billy, you ain't getting your family back till you off Chad Johnson. Billy tried to tell them that Johnson was guarded too tight. The voice said he didn't care. Either Johnson gets dead or he uses the daughters for a Saturday night party. The guy said he'd send his old lady's head to him for a souvenir. I must have looked bad as the FBI chief agent said, you don't have anything to worry about from us. You're safe. We have to find Billy's wife and kids ASAP though. I offered something. How about setting something up so it looks like Billy does shoot me? Make it out in the open where everyone sees it, and you make a production out of arresting Billy. If you were to bring him back here for custody, it wouldn't be out of the ordinary. Make me look like a DOA and have the coroner's van come out to pick me up. Have me swapped with a stiff they already have and spirit me away somewhere. If I have to go into protection, fine, but let's get his family. Howard said it might work. I hate to send the kid into protection, but we have to get Billy's family back. He's going to fry for those 3 hoods. If he's lucky, he might get some kind of homicide. It's hardly justifiable though. Billy's family will be free, but he won't be. The FBI chief said, let's set it up. We'll do it out front of the building. Hennigan, go over to the coroner's office and have them load an unidentified homeless guy into the van. All of that office knows how to keep their mouth shut. Load up a magazine with blanks. Make them so that there are blood spots where they hit. Chad, I see you have a vest, good. It'll keep the blanks from hurting too much. This time, we'll let the media see what we're doing. Don't give them the name, but say it's another person from the unemployment office. If I'm thinking right, a Tampa uniform will report to Papa the deed is done. I'll radio Charlie to tell him to call me on his cell. We'll get Billy moving toward the office. Let's make this happen. As we were going back upstairs, Howard said, you don't have to do this. I can get someone to look like you. Not enough time, sir. Just do it. Where are you going to take me afterward? What can you plan? We'll set you up in Orlando for a while. Grow a beard or something. You're still pretty recognizable with that leg, so even if you're in protection, you'd be easy to find. Howard addressed everyone in the office. From now on, while we're on this case, no more random shots, no aiming for arms or legs. We aim to finish the job. If any of you get a shot at that slimy scumsucker, Papa, make sure he's done for good. An hour later, I was at the FBI office when they called Billy. They told him he needed to come in for some questions. Knowing his phone was probably tapped, Billy simply replied, I'm on my way, but I'll keep it brief. Another agent had already gone to Billy's place, swapping the blanks into his weapon. Billy was instructed to target the body to make the shot appear convincing. They pulled up Billy's GPS phone and watched as his car made it toward downtown. We got ready to go downstairs. We watched as Billy pulled into the garage, and he came out walking toward the building. Just as Billy was coming across the street, right in front of the building, I walked out of the door with Ted. Billy looked surprised, pulled his gun, and emptied the clip at me. All of his rounds hit me in the torso. The hits were hard enough that they knocked me down. Ted drew his gun and forced Billy to drop his. The man from the hotel lobby, who had witnessed the scene, rushed across the street. People began spilling out of the federal building, and soon the sound of police sirens filled the air. A medical technician from inside the building approached, pretending to check my pulse. He moved as if closing my eyes. One of the security guards emerged and covered me with a sheet. Serena was there, visibly upset, making a scene. While I lay there, I was told later that a limousine pulled up across from where I was. Papa Nardelli rolled down the rear window and shouted, "You don't mess with me. Nobody messes with Nardelli. He was lucky no one decided to shoot him on the spot. Billy was cuffed and sitting against the building, ready to be taken in. Just as the crowd around him began to thin out, I heard 2 muffled gunshots, followed by a sharp pain in my ribs. A group of people scattered from the scene, shouting, "There he is! There he is! Don't let him escape." I heard Serena's voice ask quietly, "Are you all right? That hit you right in the lower chest. Does it feel like you were bleeding?" I responded, "No, I'm okay," softly. Serena said, "Billy's dead. They shot him. Wonder why?" I could hear the FBI chief yelling, "Get these news people out of here. They have all the video they need. Let's get this place closed up. This is a crime scene. Now move it." About 20 minutes later, a voice said, "We put this one in last. We'll put the other one in the middle rack. Let's get him moved." A couple of minutes later, I was rolled sideways and back on a board. They picked me up, carried me to the truck, and slid me in. The doors all closed, and the van moved away. I could tell we were going slowly, probably to get around the crowd. As we were moving, a voice said, "Stay down a little longer. You don't have room to sit up. We'll be at the morgue in a minute." We stopped, and I sensed the van was backing up. I could hear the difference as we went inside a building. As soon as the doors opened, I was slid out from under Billy and helped up. The attendant surprisingly handed me my cane. "Thought you might want that." The other attendant said, "Hey, how are you? Where did that round hit you while you were down?" I pointed at my ribs and noticed my new suit jacket had a hole in it. So did my shirt. I felt around and pulled out an out-of-shape bullet from my vest. "Damn, you were lucky to be wearing a vest. This thing you guys are working on must be a mess. Let's get you in the lounge. We have some other clothes to put on you, a pair of our coveralls. We'll take you out of here and hand you off in a bit." Ring, ring. My cell phone was ringing. I looked at the number and didn't recognize it. The attendant grabbed it and said, "Whoever you are, if you know the party you are calling, you should contact the Tampa Police Department." He looked at the phone then said, "They hung up as soon as I said that." The other attendant led me into the lounge and handed me a set of coveralls. He used a radio he had and called, "Hey, Smith, I have everything taken care of. I'm leaving for lunch in less than 5. One of the attendants said, "Get out of those clothes and into that jumpsuit, hustle." I took off the suit but left the vest on and put my shoulder rig back on underneath the big loose coveralls. As soon as I was ready, we went back out to the van. The guy handed me a cap and said, "Keep that on. Don't lose it." We drove out of the morgue's yard and headed into the city. We stopped at a McDonald's and bought a bunch of burgers before heading out toward Brandon. At 18th Street, in the Ybor City area, we pulled into a construction yard and parked under an overhang next to a big blue sedan with very dark windows. Howard got out saying, "You did good, kid. I'll bet that round hurt like hell." Too bad Billy didn't have his vest on. "Did you guys catch the shooter?" "Got him and his driver, alive too. We have them buried so far, no one can find them. Both of them tattled on Papa. We're not going to pick him up yet because I think he thinks he's in the clear. I want him to do something stupid." "How about Billy's family?" I asked, afraid of the answer. "Nothing yet. That's probably why they killed Billy. They've probably either killed them or are using them. If Billy were alive, he would have hunted them down. So they killed him and hit you with some insurance. You doing okay?" "Fine, Howard, now what?" Howard thanked the morgue attendants and told them to go back to work. He turned back to me and said, "I'm putting you up in our bungalow for a couple of days. You'll like it. It's better than a hotel room, and you can even swim in the heated pool. The food isn't as fancy, but it is healthy." We drove out to the Carrollwood area down a private street, with large homes on even larger lots. As we pulled up to a house, Howard used his cell phone to dial a number, and the garage door opened. He drove in, and the door closed, leaving us in a lighted, enclosed garage, sitting next to a large, black Expedition with very dark windows. When Howard opened the door to get out, I followed. I followed him right into the house to hear him call out, "Hey, Bobby, you have a guest. Come meet him and feed him." I was wondering why Howard was smiling. Holy shit, I thought. That is one hell of a good-looking huge woman. That I am, honey, that I am. And who's talking? I'm sorry, I thought I was saying that in my head. You did fine, hon. I love an honest man. Bobby, this is Chad Johnson. You've probably heard some talk about the operation he's been involved with, and now he's a target. You're the guy who did over 90 in under 90 seconds on the decision course? I smiled and nodded. Howard said, "News travels fast around here. Serena probably told you." Bobby replied that Serena had mentioned it, and that she was glad to meet the guy who was making such an impression. Bobby also mentioned that Serena said she'd give anything to be a little younger so she could have a chance with me. Howard didn't offer much help. "Yeah, she's taken a strong interest. Listen, Bobby, I've got to run. I'll be buried in paperwork all night. Keep this one low-key for me. I'll bring him some clothes later, but for now, that's all he's got. You probably have something that'll fit him." Bobby asked, "Will he be here long?" "Long enough," Howard replied. I'd rather keep him close, but we might have to move him later. No problem, boss. I'll make sure he's taken care of until you figure things out. With that, Howard left, leaving me with a woman who was probably 6'6", maybe 6'7" taller than Millie, but more athletic than bulky. She had a commanding presence, her height and build making her striking. You have shorts on? She asked. I nodded. All right, change out of the coveralls so I can return them, she said. I took a moment to empty the pockets, pulling out my wallet and badge case. Bobby noticed and picked it up. So Serena made you a full deputy marshal, not just a temp? She leaned over to get a better look at the badge. I looked away, slightly embarrassed at the awkwardness of the moment. She gave a light chuckle. Relax. You'll do just fine out here. We're on the same team now, anyway. She walked through the house, motioning for me to follow her. She pointed at a room and said, That's your room. She pointed across the hall and said, That's my room. She pointed at the floor and said, There ain't no path between my room and your room. She looked at me a minute and said, But then, I may make one. We walked into a room that had clothes racks and stacks of all kinds of clothes. She said, See if you can find yourself a pair of shorts or pants in here. Pick out a t-shirt and you'll be fixed. You probably don't need that vest on. So put it in your room and I'll show you the rest of the house. After finding a pair of shorts and stashing my vest, Bobby showed me a library room, a room with a large video screen and a couple of different kinds of video machines. The living room was typical, as was the family room. The one predominant thing I noticed was that there were TVs everywhere, but none were on. Bobby said, I like TV. It's company to me when I'm alone. I usually have a few on at a time. If you want to watch TV, pick one or several and enjoy. I like the noise and the movement. I don't know about you, kid, but I'm hungry. How about us grilling a steak? Okay with you? I nodded with a big smile. I followed Bobby into the kitchen. We worked together to get the meat ready. Bobby showed me the grill on her patio and the screened pool area. I started the burners, but I told Bobby, you need to teach me how to grill. I've never done it before except on little hibachis in the service. I'll have you cooking up a storm in no time. We'll work on it. I looked around at the large backyard area. The back of the house was taken up with a large pool, covered with a screened cage. Beyond the caged pool was a decent-sized grassy area that ended on the sides with an 8-foot privacy wall of painted concrete block, covered in some form of ivy. The pool and yard area was very private as there were no 2-story houses in the area, so no one had easy viewing access into the yard. It was just a little early for supper, but we were both obviously hungry. We cleaned up the dishes and adjourned to the big family room off the kitchen to watch TV. Bobby and I talked a long while, with Bobby saying she would give me the story of how she ended up working for the Marshal Service tomorrow. As we began to get sleepy, Bobby said, Go to bed. Get a good night's sleep. I've turned on the alarm, so you're safe. You don't have to sleep with your piece under your pillow. We got up and walked down the hall, and before I went into the bedroom, Bobby turned me around and gave me a very nice warm hug. Being folded into her huge body was definitely a way to arouse me, not to settle me down to sleep. She said, You're safe, sleep well, I'll see you in the morning. When I lay down, I kept reviewing the craziness of the day and thinking of how lucky I was to still be alive. I couldn't help but wonder how nuts Billy must have been, worrying about his family, to just coldly kill people in custody. He was probably the prime example of temporary insanity. Finally, my mind settled down to let me go to sleep. I woke up around 6:30 and headed to the bathroom attached to the room. After a quick shower, I put on the same clothes I'd worn the day before. I need to find some more clothes and basic necessities soon. Maybe there was something useful in the large supply room I remembered. I was just about to start looking for coffee and filters to use in the coffee maker when Bobby came out, still rubbing sleep from her eyes. Oh, you're one of those early risers too, huh? She said with a sleepy smile. Here, let me get the coffee started. Watch closely so you'll know where everything is. Bobby was still in her nightwear, a long gown that looked like it was made of light fabric. She didn't seem to mind being casual around the place, clearly comfortable in her own home. Once the coffee was brewing, Bobby turned and noticed my slightly awkward stance. You're too kind to be up and already moving, she said with a teasing smile. Too bad you've already had your shower. I was about to head in myself. She gave me one of her usual warm, friendly hugs and a light, sisterly kiss on the cheek. It's nice having someone who gets excited about being part of the crew. I think we're going to get along great. She headed off to shower and get dressed for the day. I turned my attention to the fridge and found some bacon and eggs, which I pulled out and placed on the counter. The pots and pans were hung under the cabinets, so I grabbed a medium frying pan and started cooking the bacon. While that sizzled, I found the bread and margarine and got ready to make toast. Bobby returned just as the bacon finished cooking. I asked how she liked her eggs, and she said over easy, so I cracked 6 eggs into the pan and dropped 4 slices of bread into the large toaster. She set the table while I finished up, and we soon sat down to a warm breakfast. She smiled as we ate. "You're going to be a good addition here," she said. "You jump right in and help out." "Thanks for that, it makes things easier. I'll do my best to make sure you enjoy your time here." As we ate, she began giving me some background. About 5 years ago, my husband was killed in the line of duty. He was young and full of dreams to quickly become a station director for the marshal's office. An escapee made the decision for him as they were closing in on him. Danny wasn't wearing his vest, and the escapee was armed. I became a young widow. I could see her eyes water while she narrated. I was lost and didn't know what to do with myself. All of the people from the office and the service were very supportive, but they can only do so much. Serena and Howard came up with this job for me. They needed a place, a safe house, to keep people while the service made up new identities or found places to ship them. They needed someone to run it, so they asked me. I said I would try it out, and was even involved in buying and remodeling this place. The rest is history. I love the job. I continuously meet new and different people, get a free place to live, free food, and get paid to boot. I'm now a full U.S. Deputy Marshal with all the privileges and benefits that go with it. I got it pretty good, don't you think? You do, Bobby, but you don't get much personal time to meet another man for your life. Not true. I know all of the Deputy Marshals, and of course I know you now. Most of the guys are a little put off because I'm either too tall or they don't like my size. Boy, are they dumb, I exclaimed. You're beautiful, Bobby. I'm looking at you sitting here right this instant and can tell you that I'm still fascinated by you. You're just big all over, that's all. Think you can handle a babe that's 6'6" and a little over 300 pounds? I'd like to find out. I can tell you that. Bobby grinned, getting up to get us some more coffee. Tell me about yourself and how you came to be here. The story was long enough that we cleaned the table, put the dishes in the dishwasher, and were on our third cup of coffee by the time I finished. Bobby said, "Interesting. If you get to stay around here, you should think about the Marshal's Service or maybe even the FBI. It's a good living, a little strange, and only sometimes dangerous, but a great group to work with." The phone rang, and Bobby looked at the caller ID before she answered. She said hello, and it became obvious that it was Serena from the office. Bobby blushed, then I heard her say, "No, Serena, I didn't do that. He is tempting though, isn't he? You should have seen. Well, maybe not, but I can tell you he was equally interested. Maybe you can come out while he's here. Come this weekend, and we'll hang out by the pool. It'll give you a chance to show off that neat new bikini you were telling me about." She listened while frowning. I could see her eyes water when she handed me the phone and said, "Serena and the boss want to talk to you." As soon as I took the phone, Bobby left the kitchen. Serena said, "I have your extra stuff and the clothes from the hotel. We'll drop it by on our check-in out there later. I have to tell you that the station is really busy with the bureau downstairs working this case. It's almost frenzy city in here. I'll let Howard tell you all about it. I'll come out Friday night or early Saturday, depending on what my mom is doing. See you then." Howard answered the phone with, "How are doing out there? Isn't Bobby the best? She's tops in my book and really looks out for the boarders she has." I could hear him take a deep breath. "Ah." He paused. Then again. Then finally he said, "We found Billy's wife and kids. The scumsuckers had probably killed them before they even sent Billy after you. I have to tell you, Chad, there's probably not a federal agent or deputy marshal around that's not hot on this case. DC is sending their best teams down to work here, and they've organized a task force all over the nation to clean this up. There's going to be a lot of hard feelings for a while. I'm glad I'm on this side of the law. I'm sorry to hear about the family, Howard. You said that it might be that way. What a waste. I wish I were out helping you right now. Tell you what," Howard said, "have Bobby take you through the video classes while you're out there and go over department functions and rules. You're already sworn in as a full deputy marshal, thanks to Serena, so you might as well be ready to do whatever a marshal does. If I can, I'll bring you into work, but right now your presence is too much of a distraction. It's better that you're considered a non-entity now. Read today's paper. It has a huge story on this whole thing. Get on the internet. Have Bobby show you the service's website and see how big this thing is. We caught Papa last night trying to take off somewhere in a small airplane, so he's back in custody as a flight risk. The federal judge revoked bail indefinitely. His lawyers are going nuts petitioning the courts. We have the last 2 shooters we caught yesterday and have picked up a dozen or so of Papa's people. All are in private custody, with special precautions around the whole place. We should not have a repeat of what happened to Billy. Anyway, stay safe, stay loose, and let Bobby teach you. She's a great gal. Enjoy yourself and relax. We'll get you out as soon as we can. Let me speak to Bobby, okay?" I called out to Bobby, who picked up an extension. As soon as I heard her say hello to Howard, I hung up. A few minutes later, Bobby came in saying, "I wish I were active in the field. I'd love to be the one to put some holes in those guys that killed Billy's family. God, how horrible." The big woman was choking up, almost sobbing. I held Bobby in a hug for a few minutes and led her to the couch in the family room area off the kitchen. We sat and I hugged her while she wept quietly for a while. She finally said, "You know, this job lets me hear some of the most horrible stories that you could ever imagine, but it gives people like you and me a chance to help out in the big scheme of things." Billy and his wife were the ones who helped me over losing my guy. Without them, I would have chewed the end of Danny's Glock. They helped me back then, and now you're a great help. Thanks for understanding, Chad. Bobby sat up and encompassed me in her mass again, hugging me and giving me a very arousing kiss. She smiled at me. "I'm really glad you are here for me after hearing another terrible story. You make me feel better about myself." She pulled away and said, "Come on, let's put our swimsuits on and go out to the pool. I'll get my manuals, and we'll begin your training after we splash around a little." Bobby, are there swimsuits in the clothing room?" She smiled. Maybe we should do this without the swimsuits. It might be more fun." She paused and said, "Yeah, there are several in there. Go get one that's comfortable and that fits." I found a suit, then used my cane to sort of walk out to the pool without my fake leg. Bobby was in the pool, hanging on the side and cocked her head watching me hobble out there. "You could have worn the thing and taken it off out here." I nodded and said, "I need to get what they call a sports peg. They strap on and off quick, but those things cost as much as a good prosthesis. I'm going to work on making one myself and save $600 or $700. Bobby asked, "You have more than one of those, don't you?" "No, just this one. I'll get another one soon, so I'll have a spare when the cup and straps wear out. It takes forever for them to repair those things." I went to the side of the pool, deciding this section was deep enough. I dropped my cane, then pushed off with my good left foot and dove into the pool. Swimming is great exercise for someone with a prosthetic, as it helps develop upper body strength and engages my good leg and thighs, especially in a scissor motion. I'm a decent swimmer, but Bobby pushed off and powered through the water alongside me with ease. She had strong strokes, and her larger build and strong arms helped her move faster than me. I tired out after about 20 minutes of intense swimming, and Bobby was breathing hard too. "That was a good one, Chad. Most people just splash around and call that swimming. You really swim like I do. It's nice to have a good swim partner. Do you like to work out?" I laughed. Truthfully, not really. But if you ask whether I work out, the answer is yes. I have to do some treadmill work almost every day, and if possible, an equal amount of stationary bike. I also use weights or weight machines for upper body conditioning. You are in luck. There is a large room in the back of the garage that has a treadmill, a stationary bike, and a series of machines and free weights that will keep you trim. I'll show you later. We'll work out after lunch. We climbed out of the pool and dried off. Bobby indicated we would sit out in the sun for a while and picked up a bottle of Coppertone. "Let me slick you up, then you can do me." She took pads from 2 loungers and laid them on the deck, indicating that I should lay down on one. The lotion was warm from the sun and felt great as she rubbed it into my back, shoulders, and arms. She did my leg and both thighs, pushing her hands up under the leg of the boxer-style swimsuit. The suit had a net to hold me instead of a jock, so her fingertips were bouncing against the netting. She told me to turn over, putting some lotion on my face and upper body. She had given me a very relaxing massage. Bobby was wearing a 2-piece swimsuit that was a bit revealing for someone of her size. The top was held up by a halter strap, and when she lay on her stomach, she reached behind herself, adjusting the bottom piece by running her fingers under the hem and pulling the material up slightly. It caused the suit to shift in a way that made it appear more form-fitting. I swallowed a reaction and began applying lotion to her shoulders and back, mimicking the same motion she had used on me earlier. I was trying to be careful not to get lotion on her swimsuit, but then she reached back and loosened the bow at her neck and back, letting the straps fall away. I continued, giving her a careful and respectful massage across her back and shoulders. As I moved down her arms and sides, I noticed her overall frame. She was a tall, athletic woman, very fit and strong. As I applied lotion to her legs, I could feel the defined muscles in her thighs. Her size and strength were striking. I focused on the massage, keeping my thoughts in check and staying professional. When I paused and leaned back, she turned her head slightly and asked, "Want me to turn over?" Almost automatically, I responded, "Sure." With practiced ease, she rolled over on the lounger. In the process, her top got caught and came off, leaving only her swimsuit bottom. She didn't seem flustered, and I kept my gaze respectful. I poured more lotion and began applying it to her upper chest and stomach, avoiding sensitive areas, and then continued to her legs. She watched me as I worked, and there was a lightness in her expression, a shared understanding of trust and comfort rather than awkwardness. After finishing, I lay down on the pad next to her, simply breathing, a bit overwhelmed by the quiet intimacy of the moment, not in a romantic or physical sense, but by the vulnerability and trust she had offered. "You're something else," Bobby said quietly, with a smile. Me? I think I'm still trying to catch my breath, I replied. You're strong, and you carry yourself with confidence. Thank you, Chad. That was kind. A thought occurred to me. You wouldn't happen to be related to a woman named Millie, would you? Her husband owns a bar. Before I could finish, she smiled. Jonas, Millie is my older sister. How do you know her? I explained how I had become friends with Jonah, and how Millie had a way of light-hearted teasing that left an impression. Bobby Chadlet. Yeah, it runs in the family. Millie used to tease my husband, Danny, too. He'd play along, and it became our thing. Since Danny passed, we don't visit as often. I think Millie feels a bit guilty that she still has Jonah while I'm on my own now. With all the guys in the service here, and that have been through here, I'm surprised that you haven't been scooped up by one of them and carried off into the sunset. The big woman repositioned herself on the cushions on her side, holding her head up with her hand. Most men are afraid of me, Chad. I don't think any that I've met since I've been single would have even attempted to put lotion on me. That says something about you, you know. You dove in with both hands. The big lady actually giggled when she said that. Serena told me you were the perfect gentleman, and you are. You did exactly what you were supposed to, always respectful, never overstepping, even if you had the chance. Wait till I tell Serena about our day together, she's going to be so jealous. She mentioned the amazing dinner you treated her to, and how thoughtful you were the whole time. I paused for a second before answering. Serena told me when we first met that she felt like she was too old for me. That's never stopped us from being good friends, but I couldn't start something with someone who didn't feel comfortable from the beginning. It wouldn't be right. You know, I'm quite a bit younger than Serena, she said. And the little bit I may be older than you doesn't matter to me at all. She smiled. I love the way you respond to me, even when you're just sitting there quietly, eyes closed. We both laughed, the moment light and teasing. We lounged in the sun, enjoying the quiet warmth of the day. The connection between us felt easy and comfortable, a calm understanding forming without needing many words. Eventually, we slipped into the pool to cool off. The laughter continued, the closeness now something more than just coincidence. Later, she looked at me and grinned. You know, I wouldn't mind if this day lasted forever. I smiled back. Neither would I. Ring, ring, ring. Damn, Bobby said, pulling from me. The phone's ringing. I have to get that. She pulled herself easily from the pool, hustling into the kitchen to answer the phone. She came back outside carrying a portable phone saying, Yep, I've been giving him some instruction, but we haven't gotten too far yet. She smiled at me and said into the phone, Yes, sir, he seems pretty relaxed and comfortable here. Yeah, you know I'll feed him well. He's a lot of fun to be around. I'll keep him for as long as you want. She listened a while. Oh, Howard, quit teasing. I should be so lucky to get a guy like Chad to be interested in me. Yep, I have the front perimeter boundaries set. Who even knows this place exists? Only a few in our office know about this place. That's the way you've always kept it. Okay, he doesn't need any extra clothes right now. I have enough to take care of what he needs. Yes, sir. I know that if I need anything I can call you anytime. Okay, I'll ask him and let Serena know. All right, Howard, I'll look for you tomorrow then. Make sure you call me before you come, so I know to look for you. I'd hate to neutralize you trying to drive in the garage. The boss is being overly cautious. He says he thinks some of the men are being tailed when they move from the garage. He said he knows no one followed him yesterday when he brought you out here, but he doesn't want to take a chance to come out directly from the office. Your stuff from the hotel is being boxed and sent from the hotel to the office. One of the guys will probably have it shipped to a drop, where it will be picked up and brought here. Bobby came over and helped me out of the pool and had me hold on to her as she dried me off. I used my cane to hobble over to sit under the patio on a fancy outdoor love seat. The big woman came over and sat next to me, turning toward me. She looked at me and said, Chad, do you have many close relatives like a mom or dad, brothers, sisters, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins? I looked at her and said, my immediate family was all killed in a car accident while I was on my first tour over in Iraq. That would have been my mom, dad, and a sister. Both grandparents passed away over the last couple of years, and the only aunt I have is a recluse up in Montana somewhere. I remember it is up around Helena. She went up there after a boyfriend jilted her and stayed up there. That was my dad's sister. My mom's kin are all down in the Louisiana bayou. They're Cajun that lives out on the swamp islands. I've never been there, and I've never met any of them. Mom ran away from the swamp when she was 15, met and married my dad when she was still 16. That's why I stayed in the service and kept going back to war zones. It wasn't a death wish, but it was a way for me to laugh at it. Bobby patted my hand and said, well, stick around here and I'll lend you some of my kin. Besides Millie, I have 4 more sisters, both younger and older. The 2 youngest aren't married, but of course Millie and my oldest sister are married. I have 2 brothers, one older and one younger than me. She smiled at me and said, and yes, All of us women in my family are big, really tall and strong. Wait until you meet my mom. You'll be amazed. She's nearly 7 feet tall. When she was younger, she worked in a circus and did carnival sideshow performances as the world's tallest woman. Part of her act involved lifting heavy weights to demonstrate her strength. That's actually how she met my dad. He was brought on as her assistant for the weightlifting act. He's only about 5'8" or 9 and really slim. But something sparked between them, and before long, my oldest sister was on the way. They got married but stayed with the circus for a while, working as clowns while she had Millie and my older brother. When she was pregnant with me, they decided to settle down near here and raise the family. My dad had been a mechanic for the circus. He also helped with sideshow setups, so he opened a small shop here. He still runs it in Bradenton with my 2 brothers, working on trucks and cars. I didn't mention my brothers earlier because I didn't want to overwhelm you. Henry is 6'7" and weighs around 400 pounds. Donnie is about 5'9" and pretty slim, maybe 140 pounds. Hard to believe they're brothers, but they're really close. Both are married and actually live next door to each other. Their wives are twins and both are around average height, but they're strong, confident women. So far, they each have 2 kids, and that might be it. After telling me about her family, she grew quiet, staring out over the backyard and the pool, lost in thought. I pulled her close to me, enjoying the skin-to-skin contact, but feeling the powerful muscles beneath her soft exterior. You know you are one hell of a big, beautiful woman. According to Millie and my sisters-in-law, I don't qualify because I'm not fat. I'm just big. They say you have to have a lot of extra pounds to be a BBW. Well, I'm the beholder, and I think you are one big, beautiful woman. Damn, you just fascinate the hell out of me. You're so sweet. You know, I'm not supposed to fraternize with guests, but you really don't count 'cause you're part of us. We maybe shouldn't fraternize with fellow employees, but I think it's all right under the circumstances, don't you? Thinking about it a second, I answered, you know, Howard may have sent me out here for just that reason. I think he figured we might get together. The person who will have figured that out is Serena. You'll have to ask her in a backdoor sort of way. I'll do that when I call in this afternoon. I talk to the office twice a day every day. If I don't call or talk to them within the specified times, they are out here in a flash. I forgot a couple of times over the years, and each time, there were 5 or 6 cars here. There was something that bothered me. Since I've been here, I haven't noticed any hardware. Do you have any protection here? Or is it not good to have something like that in a safe house? Honey, I have a better arsenal than MacDill AFB. Let me show you. Bobby led me into the house, both of us still naked. By the front door was an umbrella stand. She lifted out an MP5 from behind a couple of big umbrellas. Over by the kitchen door to the garage, she pulled another MP5 from behind the refrigerator. Next, she pulled out a counter drawer on the other side of the door, and there was a Glock 22. She led me throughout the house, showing me various handguns and MP5s. Bobby stopped at the door to her bedroom and said, "Don't be mad at what you see in here, because it's part of what's necessary to keep this place protected." She opened the door and led me into the bedroom. She pulled a couple of bifold closet doors open to display 12.5 video screens. There was the front of the house, the patio, pool, and backyard, each room in the house, the garage, and there must have been 4 cameras on the roof giving a good view of the perimeter on the outside of the fence and down the street from the house. In the closet with the monitors were additional rifles and several boxes of handguns, along with multiple cases of ammunition. Bobby looked at me and asked, "Think that's enough?" All I could do was nod. We went back to the kitchen where she said, "It's time for lunch. I have some roast beef for sandwiches. How about a roast beef with pepper cheese, lettuce, tomato, and some jalapenos? Want plain mayonnaise, or would you rather have horseradish spread?" Just the thought had my mouth watering. We fixed a couple of big sandwiches, and she pulled out a Coke Zero and held it out to me questioningly. I nodded and took it. She got one for herself, and we went back out to the patio still stark naked. We sat at the table on the patio, enjoying the warm breeze while eating the delicious sandwiches. When we finished, Bobby asked, "Want to lie down for a few minutes and let our meal settle, or would you rather look at training videos?" "I'll follow you, teach. Let on." She led me into her room and said, "Watch this." She pushed a button by the bed, and the sliding door between the family room and the patio slid closed, and a red light over the patio display turned green. All of the monitors displayed green lights except the monitors that show out of the yard area. They had irregular white lights. Bobby smiled at me and said, "There, all secure." She pulled a sheet and bedspread over us, pulling me into her to be cradled against her chest. She kissed my forehead, and I felt her body relax. She was content. I drifted off for about an hour, until I heard a beep, 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 beep continuously coming from the monitor area. I quickly sat up, looking at the monitors, and saw the mailman walking up the sidewalk and setting a large folder by the door before walking back to his truck. He put some mail in the mailbox and pulled down the street to the next house. I could see this in the monitors from the roof. I watched as the truck went to each mailbox until it turned at the intersection to go down that street. Bobby said, if he didn't turn at that street, I would think there was a problem, but it's probably something from the service. They send stuff in big envelopes that look as if I subscribed to some kind of coin collection club. She got up and went to the monitors and picked up a joystick. Let's look at the envelope before I put on clothes and get the mail. She maneuvered the camera to look at the envelope and zoomed in on it. The envelope said, United States Mint, Collectors Club. I guess we should dress. Darn, I really enjoy being naked with you. It feels so good, and I keep thinking that we're both so available to each other to just ravish. But if we're going to get any studying done, we better put on some clothes. She slipped on some shorts and a big man's short-sleeve shirt and only buttoned it up enough to leave a delightful view of some cleavage. She said, I'm going for the mail, slip on some shorts and a shirt, and meet me in the family room. When I was dressed, with my leg in place, and in the family room, I watched as Bobby opened the envelope. There were several pieces of paper and a couple of checks. She handed me a sheet of paper that had my name in the area of the memo. It was a welcome into the U.S. Marshals Service. It explained that my swearing in had initiated all of the customary benefits of a deputy marshal at the grade of corporal. If I were to complete the list of training requirements below, I would be eligible for promotion to sergeant. Upon reading the list of training videos, I discovered that I had already watched all but one. Serena had already tested me on the others, so she must have forgotten the remaining one, or she had a reason not to give that one to me. Bobby said, you're pretty important property to the service. They even sent me an extra stipend in order to purchase any special materials for your comfort. I suppose I could go into city to the strip clubs and pick out a couple of dancers for you. No reason to do that, though. All I have to do is call my two younger sisters. They would be out here in a heartbeat, putting on a show for you. So what was your note all about? I showed her the note and explained that I had already completed and had been tested on all of the videos except the one. She checked the name of the video and said, I have that. We'll watch it in a bit, and I'll test you on it afterward. Now that you know you need to absorb what's on the videos, you'll remember them. How did you do on the others that you watched? I don't know the score, but Serena said I passed all of them fine. I really like the interrogation videos. They were good, because I can use that information for my interviews for my regular job, if I ever get to go back to it. If you make sergeant, you may not want to go back to that job. If you make sergeant, you will be making about 65 base. The best part about it is that you will be just one step down from a station chief like Howard. Whoever got you classified as a corporal coming in did you the big favor. It takes guys 5, 6, 7 years to make corporal. It must have been your military service that did that. I'll ask Serena or Howard. She smiled and said, come help me find that video in the worksheet. Let's make you eligible for sergeant your first day of training out here. First, we put away the mail that we had received before we went to find the video. In her magic closet, she had a shelf come down on some kind of motorized rotating basis. It took 3 shelves before we found the video and training packet. The video was on hostage negotiations. The service kept a hard line on hostages, not compromising to the kidnapper unless directed by Washington. All of the information was pretty straightforward until it got to the documented situations. There were 6 case studies, where 4 were completed saving the hostage, but 2 cost the lives of the hostage, and one of those also cost the life of a deputy marshal. All of the videos had the good and the bad. It seems as if the service lost a deputy in almost every type of confrontation at one time or another. It was good that they documented it on the videos so you knew that the job had risks. After I filled out the test, instead of giving oral answers, Bobby faxed the sheet to Serena. Once it was gone and a confirmation received, she called, turning on the speaker of the answering machine, while she was on the handset that went with the cordless set. Bobby, well, Serena, you can send Chad in so he's on the sergeant list now. Serena, I know. Isn't it neat they gave him credit for his military service? Howard reviewed his military record and said Chad had several commendations and honor medals. I'm typing up the transmittal for his sergeant grade right now. Considering he's in protective custody, he might get the grade almost overnight. Once he becomes sergeant, he might be allowed to come back to life and help track down the rest of the bad guys. Bobby, you know he did all of the initial and pre-field videos too, don't you? Serena, yes, he did that on his own. He figured out which ones he should watch this past weekend pretty much on his own. I only put a few in on him, so he'd have some enjoyable ones too. You know he scored an almost perfect score on all the post-video tests. Those scores will help him towards sergeant too. Bobby, do you think some of the other younger or newer deputies will be jealous? Serena, I don't think so. They all saw how Chad figured out that he needed to be taken out of the picture, and he even planned out how to do it. What was bad was that Billy was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Oh, I need to tell you. The service is giving him an honor burial along with his family. It's going to be one consolidated service. His record is being sealed without mention that he did away with the prisoners. The Bureau is going along with it because it was their man that didn't accompany Billy in the cell area. The man is on report over it. Anyway, you need to attend the funeral. Chad will probably be fine out there by himself. He's pretty resourceful, and he doesn't scare very easily. Bobby, let me know when it is, and I'll be there. Serena, it's tomorrow morning at 10. After the service, they're going to take the whole family to a plot over at the Garden of Memories on East Lake. After the graveside service, there is going to be a luncheon wake back downtown. It's going to be a full day, so make sure Chad has something constructive to do tomorrow. Bobby, I'll just have him rest up all day so he can take care of me when I get home. Think that'll work? Serena, you've probably already got into his pants. But then I know you too well. You're such a stickler on procedure. While you have that man in your clutches, you should take advantage of him. I know I would, but he's too young for me. Bobby, well, maybe you'll have to come out here and entertain him one day this weekend. We could double team him and see how he holds up. See if he would make a good undercover guy. Serena and Bobby laughed together. Bobby, okay, I'll meet you at the office no later than 9 so we can go out to the funeral home together. See you tomorrow. Once off the phone, Bobby said, let's read the newspapers about yesterday. We became distracted this morning and didn't do that. The front page headline announced FBI agent and U.S. Deputy Marshal killed in downtown Tampa. The story didn't follow the line that we had set up for the bad guys' consumption, but said 2 men with rifles had shot the men in front of the federal building. The story gave Billy's name and said that his family was being searched for as they had been kidnapped earlier. They didn't give my name, but said I was a new deputy marshal and new to the area. The service was withholding my name until next of kin could be notified. There was a picture of Billy and me laying on the sidewalk with sheets over us. Another story told about several underworld hoodlums who had been killed recently in confrontations with law enforcement. The newspaper described that 2 hired killers, who were later killed in a confrontation, had earlier assassinated 2 men. The gun battle had been witnessed by some homeowners, but the media had been warned away. Still another story talked about Papa Nardelli having been arrested, released, and rearrested when trying to flee the country. Papa's attorney gave a statement saying that Papa wasn't trying to run, but wanted to go somewhere to relax and get over the trauma of being jailed. For some strange reason, the writer didn't give the charges Papa was being held on. There was no comment on the fraudulent employment and training scam that had been, and possibly still was, occurring. It's pretty difficult to shut off money when it is being sent regularly by the government. We went to Bobby's computer where she logged onto the U.S. Marshals website. There, we were able to look up the investigation. They listed cities from coast to coast with individual names of the people who were supposedly trained and hired with a subsidy. The service had referred the case to the Bureau, and the amount of misappropriated funds exceeded $100 million. Bobby said, no wonder you are not very popular. You probably cost them another $100 million because you blew the whistle on them. I wonder if the service is going to make up a story saying you were working undercover to investigate suspected fraud. If they did that, the bad guys would leave you alone because covert stuff is okay with the bad guys. It's part of the business. If you were undercover with the bad guys, they would be hunting you. But since you were possibly undercover in another government agency, you're probably clear. I'll ask Howard about that tomorrow. Bobby shut down the computer and said, okay, it's time for some physical training. Come work out with me. You need to work out to keep your strength up, and I need to get really strong so I can get into a carnival sideshow. We both laughed at that. I began by warming up on the bike for 10 minutes before I got on the dreaded treadmill and stayed there for 30 minutes. As soon as I was off the bike, Bobby rode hard, at a high tension rate, for almost 30 minutes. When she was done, she began doing stretches before she used the free weights. She worked steadily, only once having me come over to spot her while she was doing her bench presses. Wow, she pressed right at 500 pounds. That is strong. I used the machines for shoulder and abdomen exercises, used some weight for curls, and finished by doing my 200-pound bench press that I was so proud of. We kept going for about an hour and a half. Eventually, Bobby got up, stretched, and said, come on, let's swim and loosen up. We won't get much chance to do this tomorrow. You can use the gym equipment, but not the pool. You'll be limited to the house until I get back. We went for a swim after dropping our clothes and my leg on the patio. Afterward, Bobby uncovered the hot tub. We got in and relaxed in the warm water and bubbles. It was a peaceful way to wind down the afternoon. After the soak, we took a shower and then made a great grilled chicken dinner together. The evening was quiet. We watched a movie and then went to bed in Bobby's room. The bed was big enough that we each had plenty of space to sleep comfortably. The morning was just as calm. Before Bobby got ready to go into the office, we swam hard for about 20 minutes, then relaxed over coffee and some pancakes. While I cleaned up the kitchen and dishes, Bobby showered and got ready to leave. When she came out of the bedroom, I whistled. "You really dress up nice, looking good, kid." "Thank you, kind sir. I don't get a chance to dress up very often. With you around, I don't want to dress at all. Listen now, you have to keep all of the drapes pulled, all of the doors locked, and no loud music. When I leave, the house is supposedly empty. I showed you how the perimeter alarms work, so be sure to set them. Here's a cell phone to use in case you have to call someone. That way you won't be using the main line. I think that's all. I'll see you this evening." Bobby got into the expedition, made the garage door open, and left after closing it. I turned on all the alarms, making sure all the lights on the monitors were green. My day was going to be exercising first, followed by some studying. I spent an hour and a half in the gym and took a shower to clean the sweat off. I had to find some clean clothes, so I raided the inventory again for some jeans and a t-shirt. I was comfortable wearing the jeans, so I didn't have to look at the damned leg all the time. Out of sight, out of mind. I selected 3 of the advanced videos, one on counter-espionage, one on methods of attacking a fortified structure, and one on high-speed pursuit. After the first video, I took the written test, just before it was lunchtime. While I was finishing lunch, the cell phone rang. I reluctantly answered it. It was Bobby. She was out of breath and began rattling on about a car exploding, and that Serena and her had run down a bad guy. "Slow down, Bobby. Tell me slowly what happened." She said. "I'll tell you in a little while. I don't think they will have that luncheon. We're finishing our report right now, and I'll be leaving. The way Serena is acting, I might bring her home with me. I'll send her mom to stay with a neighbor." God, you won't believe all of this. I could believe just about anything at this point. I went into my room and put on my shoulder rig just to be sure I knew where it was. I checked to be sure there was a round in the chamber. I began checking weapons that I had been shown the day before. The MP5 at the door in the umbrella stand had a full magazine, less 2 rounds, from the way it looked. That was good so the spring wouldn't lock up. There was already a round in the chamber. I double-checked the safety and put it back. I checked the MP5 behind the refrigerator and it was the same, locked and loaded. The Glock in the drawer was the same. I sure hoped this place was a total unknown. There was some craziness going on. The cell phone rang, and it was Bobby saying she was about a mile away, so I should turn off the perimeter alarm. For some reason she was very curt. I asked if Serena was with her, and she said very harshly, "None of your business, goodbye." Something was wrong. I called the office and got Howard. I told him something was wrong with Bobby coming in. He said he was on his way, but to be prepared for anything. I was watching for the expedition. It came down the street slowly with a Chevy Suburban following it. I knew I was going to be at a disadvantage if I stayed in the house, so I looked quickly out in the garage. I grabbed the MP5 by the fridge and hopped to the side of the upright freezer out there. Depending on where Bobby parked the expedition, I would have a clear firing path to anything in the garage or in the driveway. I was hidden from view, so I would be a surprise. I felt my pockets and cursed. I didn't have my spare magazines for my sidearm. Hoping I had time, I hopped to the kitchen door, opened the drawer, grabbed the Glock and the 2 extra magazines, shut the door, and hopped back to the freezer. The garage door began to open. I watched intently. The damn windows on the expedition were so dark you couldn't see in. The expedition pulled in and shut down. I was hoping Bobby would automatically shut the overhead door to shut out the Suburban. Just as the rear passenger side door opened, the overhead door began going down. A man said loudly, "Hurry, go open the front door." I saw people getting out of the Suburban before the door shut all the way. The guy asked, "Where will your boarder be right now?" I heard Bobby say, "He's probably in his room jacking off. That's all he ever does." The man laughed and said, "Both of you get out, slowly, no fast moves. Stay in front of me all the way to the front door." All the doors to the expedition were slammed shut. Apparently there was no one else in the expedition, so I waited until the man was in full view. He was so confident he didn't even have his gun held up. I didn't do probably what you're supposed to do, and I wished I had a silencer. I pulled my 9mm and fired a single shot hitting the guy in the head. Sure hope his blood didn't get all over the garage wall. It would be hell to cover up. Serena and Bobby both turned toward me. I tossed the MP5 to Bobby, and as I approached them, handed the Glock to Serena with the extra 2 clips. I said, "We can do this 2 ways. Raise this door and destroy the Suburban with the MP5, or go out the front and back and catch them in a 3-way. We have to move because they're probably going to try to kick open the door." Bobby said, "You can't break that door or any of the windows. Let's do this. You go around, grab the other MP5 from the front door and go out the back. Go around the house to the left. There is a gate that's easy to open there. I'll give you to the count of 30 and raise this door. Serena, you go out the back and cover to the right in case someone climbs the fence back there. Count of 30, now go." I began counting to 30 slowly as I nearly ran to the front door, grabbed the MP5, and ran to the back door. Serena was right there looking out as I hopped out and went to the left. I went through the gate expecting to see someone. At the count of 28, I was at the right edge of the house and garage. All the doors to the Suburban were open, so however many there were, they were all out of the vehicle. I peeked around the edge of the garage while sliding the safety off, and to see there were 5 guys at the front door kicking it, and a guy by a bedroom window hitting it with his gun butt. The garage door began raising, attracting the attention of all 6 men. I looked down to make sure the gun was selected for single fire and looked back up. As they turned toward the garage and started toward the door, I raised the MP5, selected the nearest target, and fired. I fired 6 successive shots, downing 6 men quickly. I passed the gun over all 6 to make sure none were moving before I yelled, "6 down in front. I don't think there are any more. Go double-check Serena's position, then we'll tag these guys." Just as I heard the kitchen door open, a guy came from the far side of the house, firing as fast as the gun would slide another round in the chamber. I was still partially behind the edge of the garage, and I don't think he even saw me. I raised the gun and hoped this one didn't have any body armor as his head was moving around too fast. I squeezed off 4 rounds as fast as I could, standing the guy up and spinning him. When he was almost perfectly still, I put a 5th round in his head. He was a mess. Bobby came back through the garage looking down the street. There didn't seem to be any other vehicles around. I told Bobby that I had called Howard, and he was on his way. He would probably call for backup. If she thought he would answer his phone, she should call him and stop him from leading anyone else here. I was expecting neighbors to be coming out of their houses, but no one came out, and no sirens could be heard. Serena came through the garage, and I asked her if she had a camera. She nodded yes, and I said, "Take pictures of the bodies real quick, and we'll shove them in the Suburban. Hurry before they get blood on the sidewalk." Shit, we had 8 dead guys that we needed to do something with, so we didn't attract attention. I said that to Bobby, but she said, "If our cover here is blown, we shut this down and open another. We may be okay, because I think this is all of them." They caught Serena and me as we went into the garage to get the car. I think they were going to use us like they did Billy's family. They could tell we were part of the service because I was parked in a service slot. Howard apparently told Bobby he wasn't being followed because a car was following another marshal that broke off from Howard to mislead whoever was following them at the time. Howard pulled up and parked blocking the driveway. He came up and looked around. "Good, Serena's documenting the scene. What were you going to do, Bobby?" She looked at him and pointed at me. I said, "I want to load the bodies into the Suburban so we can get them out of sight. I also want to get the blood off the sidewalk as fast as possible. Do we need the bureau, or do we have to call the sheriff's department?" Howard said, "We can do what we need. We're autonomous in this situation. Thank God those MP5s are quiet. No one's called the cops. Let's get the bodies in the Suburban." I hobbled over to the Suburban and dropped the seats down so the back would be open. I went with Howard, and we loaded the guy from the garage into the truck first. Howard quickly went through the guy's pockets, throwing everything from them on the ground. He told Bobby and Serena, "Go through those guys' pockets and pull everything out. Do the closest first so we can get him in the truck." Bobby said, "Chad, you do the pockets. Let me put these slime balls in the truck. It's easier for me to do it. I have 2 good legs." "Hey Serena, write down ID info from each of their wallets and stuff it in their shirt pocket." I couldn't argue, so in the essence of time, I went through the first guy's pockets quickly. While Serena was doing the second guy, I switched to the next. We leapfrogged till I was at the last guy, who was pretty nasty. He was the crazy fool firing at me. I cleaned out his pockets and pulled his coat up over his messy head. Bobby and Howard had all 8 guys quickly stacked in the Suburban with the doors closed. He took the keys out of the ignition, then used the remote to lock it up. He said, "I'll call the bureau and have their tow truck haul this to their station so they can do the bodies. Let's gather the junk from the pockets and get them in individual plastic bags." Thank goodness Serena and I had kept the junk separate. All had a wallet, and all had a cell phone. Some had keys, they had some change, but a couple had notes about various people, our people, written on them. Howard had Bobby park the Expedition the way it was supposed to be parked, and he had me move the Suburban while he parked next to Bobby in the garage. To make it easier on the tow truck driver, I backed into the driveway on the Expedition's side. Then, on second thought, I parked the Suburban on the street. I was happy to get out. The smell of the bloody dead bodies was not pleasant. We all went inside, but Bobby walked out to the mailbox, looking up and down the street closely to double-check that none of the neighbors had witnessed anything. Inside, Bobby said, "Now that I've seen how it's done, I think I can do this if it happens again." Howard asked, "Why did you go for headshots on all of them?" I looked at him like he was missing something obvious. "Body armor." He blinked. "I didn't think of that. Makes sense. I guess it's pretty common these days. If I were going into a fight, I'd have some too. How'd you know to expect that? A lot of the guys I've seen in combat zones wore armor. Hard to bring them down when they've got it on. If you can't land a headshot, You have to hit their bodies enough times to stop them, slow them down, disorient them, maybe even knock them off balance. When they stop moving, that's when you aim for the head. Howard nodded. You're going to have to teach that to the team. Everyone, men and women. He turned to Serena and Bobby, then asked her, you staying out here tonight? Serena exhaled. Yeah, I think I need to. After all that, I just need to decompress. I didn't pull the trigger once, but it feels like I was the one firing the whole time. Hard to believe a secretary could end up in something like this. Howard said, Secretary, my butt, you're the assistant station chief. If you didn't know that, you haven't read your mail for a couple of years. Serena smiled. Yeah, I'm more of den mother than an assistant station chief. Amazing, we haven't had an incident in almost 15 years. Gimp here comes along, and we have an incident a day and even get me involved. I'll tell you one thing, Serena, Howard started. Someone will come get you from this point until this thing gets put to bed. You and your mom are not alone. If I have to move you into the hotel, I will. I already have teams set up to watch everyone's family, or they are going on long trips. No repeat of what happened to Billy. Howard cocked his head. Sounds like the tow truck. Check it out to make sure it's ours, Bobby. Bobby hit a button and a wall in the family room opened to show a duplicate set of video monitors. It showed what must have been a familiar sight and face as Howard headed toward the door. Outside, two men in coveralls got out of the tow truck. One went straight for the chains and lift controls on the long bed truck while the other came over to Howard. Howard said, Hey, Jeff, so you got assigned to this one. Sorry about so many, but our newest guy got a little firefight happy. I have all of the pocket stuff inside. I'd like to look at it and document it before I hand it over. Would that be okay? Fine, just do it on form so I don't have to do it again. I'll assign a newbie to double check it and to tear everything apart. You didn't shut off the cell phones, did you? I sure as hell did. Bobby said, I don't know if any are GPS phones, but I didn't want to take any chances. We removed the battery on all of them. When you get them, you can do whatever you want with them, but I'd bet there isn't much information you get from them. Howard said, Good thinking, Bobby. You've done the series on covert storage, I see. Damn right. I've done every module having to do with this place at least 3 times, and several probably a half dozen times. I want whatever I do to be second nature and not have to think about it. She turned around and looked at me. Hell, this guy is as much of a curve as you can send me. Whoever heard of having to store a dead deputy marshal in protective custody? They didn't cover that one. Jeff said, maybe you should write a new training module. Bobby said, I'll let Serena do that. I think she'll have something to add for inside deputy marshals and their vulnerability. We sure didn't anticipate this one. Howard said, you and me both. We should have after what Billy went through. The Bureau and us screwed up big time. You're taking this to the warehouse, right, Jeff? Right. The center needs to take this truck apart, as well as autopsies on the shooters. Since you've stripped them already, it's going to be harder to identify them. Serena said, we wrote down the driver's license info on each of them. It's in their shirt pockets. That'll get you started until you get the rest of the pocket junk. None of them had a lot in their wallets. So far I haven't seen any easy tells. The truck may give you more info than the shooters and their stuff. We were all standing next to the big tow truck, with the Suburban up on the bed chained down now. Another black Suburban was coming down the street very slowly. I was watching it as the windows on our side of the truck came down. I saw what looked like a barrel stick out the window. I said quickly but not too loud, everyone, in back of the truck, quick. Bobby, I'm going to try for the rifles. Serena still had the Glock and Bobby pulled a Glock from her waist. Jeff, Howard, and even the tow truck driver all pulled hardware out as they moved to the back of the truck, watching the car as it approached. The tow truck driver was the only one to speak. Damn, those scumsuckers better not shoot my new truck. Christ, it took 3 years of begging to get it. I hopped to the house door and into the kitchen, grabbing the MP5 there. Coming back through the front door, I grabbed the MP5 from the umbrella stand. There was no time to go back to my room for my extra magazines, so I looked out the door to see the Suburban almost stopped on the other side of the tow truck. Bobby saw me coming and met me halfway, grabbing the MP5, checking it for a chambered round, and checking the safety and firing position. If it was where I had left it, it was still on single fire. A confident shooter always chose single fire over full auto. Bursts are good sometimes, but you can't carry enough rounds and magazines for full auto. The truck was moving again, and I could see the far side rear door open from my perspective. They're coming out the back door on the far side, I nearly yelled. Jeff moved around to the back edge of the tow truck, kneeling down to give himself a lower profile. The others were directly behind the tow truck now. I made it to the truck and dove underneath to roll farther under it, edging forward to get a firing angle at the near side windows. Just as the truck came even with the tow truck, a round was fired from other side of the truck. I couldn't see the shooter because of my angle, but I was looking into the eyes of the guy in the near side window. He had a surprised look on his face as he tried to get the barrel of the AK-47 he had out the window. I snapped a shot and luckily hit his cheek. That distracted him long enough for me to aim before putting another round in his face. The driver's window came down, with the driver beginning to point an automatic of some kind at me. I hit him before the gun was even pointed my way. The Suburban lurched forward, leaving two shooters on the other side of the truck fully exposed. They looked stunned and began shooting wildly toward the house. They were both hit with multiple rounds within a split second. At least one of my rounds hit each of them. I rolled out from the truck the way I had come in, following the truck that was now being at least partially directed down the street. As it rounded the bend in the road, Bobby said, "Let's run, the street's a dead end. There's a cul-de-sac about 100 yards down that way." Howard said to the tow truck driver, "Move your truck to middle of the street, block anything from leaving, and get on the other side. Serena, you stay here with them." Bobby, Howard, and Jeff were sprinting down the street, Howard and Jeff with handguns, and Bobby with the MP5. Since it would be dumb for me to try to catch up with them, I checked the two down guys in the street. They were toast. The driver put the truck crossways in the street so he and Serena could get behind it. I didn't know what to do, so I went to the far side of the house and looked through the other open backyards trying to see something. The trio was standing around the car with their weapons pointing at it, and a guy with his hands up standing next to the passenger door. Considering they had the situation under control, I turned in time to see another damn Suburban coming around the corner, heading toward the driver and Serena. I yelled, "Move, get on this side of the truck." As they were running around to the other side, a guy came out of a sunroof, and with some kind of small rifle pointing at the pair moving around the truck. I threw my MP5 to my shoulder and snapped a body shot. The man jerked back, but wasn't down. I took the time and put one in his head. The passenger window opened, and another guy leaned out the window with a handgun. I popped him before he could get off a shot. Next, I aimed at the driver's dark side of the windshield, letting off 3 quick rounds, then shot at the other side of the windshield with another 3. The car lurched to a stop in the middle of the street about 50 feet from the tow truck. I knew more people were probably in the Suburban, but not how many. I yelled at the driver and Serena, "Stay down, there's more inside that truck." I slowly went forward, keeping the tow truck between me and the Suburban. As I got nearer the tow truck, I yelled, "You're outnumbered. Get out of the truck slowly with your hands up. Be very careful. I'm a little trigger happy today." The tow truck driver was at the front of his truck covering the passenger side of the Suburban, while Serena was kneeling down, using the outside rear tire as a shooting position. I saw a hand stick up on the far side of the truck and noticed the rear door of the truck start opening. "Serena, watch closely, someone's coming out the back." I began moving parallel to the street, keeping the MP5 pointing at the rear of the car. Just as I passed the driveway, the rear window on the driver's side exploded, and I heard a misformed round whine past my head. I let off 3 quick shots in return, just as a head leaned out past the back tailgate area, with a handgun pointing at me. I fired 2 shots and the bolt of the MP5 locked open. I dropped it and pulled my pistol. I was trying to remember how many rounds I had left, but couldn't remember. If I had at least one, it was better than none. I kept approaching the truck until I looked through the open rear tailgate to see no one moving except the guy on the side of the truck with his hands up. "Move to the front of the truck and keep your hands high." I began checking the down men to find that there was a guy that I had not seen that had been hit on the other side of the rear window shooter. He wasn't dead, but he was damn near there. He was hit in the neck and blood was gushing out. His eyes had the look of dead fear while he clutched at his neck. Of the truckload of 6 men, only one was still standing. I had the live one stand still while I patted him down and had him move toward the 2 trucks. I hollered, "Who has cuffs?" The driver said he had some and went to his truck, coming back with some. I kept my pistol on the guy's head while the driver cuffed him. "Take him over and sit him on the grass. Take him apart again." I didn't do a good job searching. Now the sirens were coming. That was a lot of noise not to be noticed. Howard and Bobby were walking 2 cuffed men back toward us when 3 county sheriff's cars came sliding around the corner. Thank goodness I had my badge in my pocket, so I held it up in the air. Serena had hers as she had put hers in the waist of her skirt. The tow truck driver held his up as well. 3 deputies jumped out of their car, pulling their weapons, yelling for us to put ours down. I yelled back, "I'm a U.S. Marshal, and this is our crime scene. Stand down. Come and identify yourself." The 3 deputies were stunned. They weren't used to being challenged. Still holding my badge up, I said again, "Please identify yourself with your agency's identification." This was straight out of a video I had watched over the weekend. The 3 pulled their wallets and showed their ID. I told them, "One of you call your supervisor and begin doing traffic until we can get the crime scene people out here. Keep traffic totally out of this area. I don't care whether they live here or not." The 3 deputies walked back to their cars just as 2 unmarked cars came around the corner. One was obviously a federal car, as it had the front U.S. Marshal plate on it. That one pulled up next to the Suburban while the other car stopped to talk to the deputies. 3 more unmarked cars came around the corner, all with federal front plates on them. They stopped, blocking the street, with men rapidly climbing out of them at the ready. The 2 men in the unmarked car behind the marshal's car got out and approached showing their badges. One was a little huffy, saying, "This is our jurisdiction, this is our crime scene." 2 men, who had gotten out of the marshal's car, said from behind them, "Identify yourselves and do it slowly. There's been enough shooting today. Slowly get your IDs and hand them back here. Until we release this area, this is a federal crime scene." Again, more words right out of the video. Cool, the other marshals had watched it too. 6 FBI agents walked up and asked, "Do we need a cleanup truck?" Serena had come up next to me and said, "I already called in. They're on the way. I asked for your 2 trucks and ours. We have a lot to go over." I asked the agents, "Do you guys have cameras? I'd like to document this area and go down the street and document the car around the bend." Howard and Bobby came up with the 2 handcuffed men and said to me, "Deputy, I'll take over lead from here. Why don't you go sit down someplace and let the adrenaline settle down?" I was so tired, I was staggering. I knew that I still had to write a bunch of reports. Just the descriptions were going to take a couple of hours. At least Serena and Bobby could help me on the first one. Howard and even Jeff could help on the second, and Serena and the tow truck driver could help on the last. I got the attention of one of the marshals and pointed to the MP5 on the ground. "Photograph that piece, then take it in the house." I looked at Howard. Howard had a serious look on his face and said to Bobby, "Guess you need to start packing." The 2 detectives didn't understand, so Jeff flashed his badge and said, "This obviously was a safe house. It's been compromised, so it has to be moved. Now if you'll get your men and do some traffic control for us, we would appreciate it. If you could, keep everyone from getting to that corner. We would like to keep this as private as possible. Call in and tell the news helicopters to stay away. Any that violate that request will be grounded." One of the FBI guys moved his car so the detectives and the 3 deputies could leave. The 4 cars moved down the street and around the corner just as a white van with U.S. Marshal's office markings came around the corner. It was followed by 2 more white vans with FBI markings on them. A 4th white van came too, but had no markings. Howard commented, "The cleanup crew came along early. That's good." Bobby came to me and said, "Let's get you inside before you collapse. You've had a busy day." "No more than you and Serena," I said, hobbling toward the house. "We've been paid to do this for a long time," Bobby said. "You shouldn't have to start out this way. Besides, I think you accounted for every down man out there. The 2 that were exposed from that second car were hit by all of us, but you hit them too. I noticed that you used up an entire magazine. When are you going to learn that you reach down inside the umbrella stand for some spares before you go out?" Inside the house, the first thing I did was to go into my bedroom and find the other 2 magazines I had and slide one home and put the other in my pocket. I put the gun back in my shoulder holster and went into the kitchen where it looked like Bobby was pouring a drink. "If that's for me, Bobby, I don't want one until everything's put to bed out there. Coffee would be great though." Bobby looked at me saying, "Where's your adrenaline rush? How can you still be standing? I'm about dead and you're still coherent." "I'm bushed, but you forget, I've had several years of that sort of thing, and with guys that were a hell of a lot more deadly than those guys." This was all pure reaction. Nothing like worrying about your team around you taking fire from all angles. Serena asked, "How about we start on our reports? That might calm us down. We have 3 distinct incidents. Let's start with the guys that took us down in the garage. While we were going through each incident, various men would come to see how we were doing. Howard and Jeff came in, saying the 3 of us were going to be put up for commendations. He said to me, 'I don't think the service has had many deputy marshals that had multiple incidents their first few days.' It was dark by the time the other 2 cars were up on flatbeds and cars began leaving. Howard said, 'We're leaving 2 men out front. Turn on your perimeter alarm anyway. You probably won't get that much sleep, but try anyway. Chad, you stay here. You're just as safe here as in the hotel. Serena, do you still want to stay?' 'More than ever, boss. How about I get the guy that gets relieved out there to take me to the office in the morning? I have clothes in the expedition.' You know we didn't even include it in the cleanup on the investigation." Bobby said, "That guy had rubber gloves on anyway. He was pretty professional, so I don't think he left anything in there. How long do you think it'll take to find and modify a new place, Howard? We already have one that's not been opened yet. It's our reserve, waiting for something like this to happen. You'll move there tomorrow or the next day, if we can keep this area clear. It's close, so it won't take long. It's probably easier to defend too, because there is open space all around. We can put perimeter alarms completely around the property. The only problem will be the raccoons and other critters that wander by." Serena finished printing out our reports and handed them to Howard. He handed them back and said, "You 3 have to sign them before they are official." We each signed the reports and Serena handed them back to him. Print up 4 more and sign another, Howard said. Serena, you bring the signed one in, and each of you keep a copy. Have it around with you for the next week or so, because you can bet a bunch of people from DC are in the air as we speak. No one downs 8. Or in your case, a couple dozen bad guys in one incident without getting a psychiatric exam. You did those 8 guys, 4 from the second car, and 4 or 5 from the last car. It'll take you all night carving the notches in your gun. Anyway, you guys are probably going to have to come in tomorrow morning. Chad, you're alive again. You can just get your clothes yourself in the morning. If you want, you can wear something in and change once you get to the office. I want you to live in our secure house for a while though. It's easier to let Bobby watch you than have you somewhere else. Jeff and I are leaving now. I think this is his first incident, and we have to go back and write up our reports before we go home. Bobby, I'll call you in the morning, and Serena, I'll tell the duty guys to bring you to the office with them in the morning before they go home. Bobby said, I think we'll just drive in with the duty guys in the morning and let the relief watch the place while we're gone. If you think the big shots are going to want to interview us, we might as well be ready for them first thing. Good thinking, Bobby. Howard was nodding, always looking ahead. You are a good deputy marshal. See you tomorrow. When Howard was gone, Bobby brought out a bunch of cleaning kits and the 3 of us cleaned up the 2 MP5s, the Glock, and my 9mm. We reloaded magazines and stored everything back where they belonged. Hopefully, we wouldn't need them again. Bobby said, there are steaks. Chad, light the grill. Serena makes salads. I'll do some potatoes and some veggies. Let's eat. It didn't take long before we were all sitting around the table near the counter in the family room off the kitchen. The video wall was still on, everything cast in shades of green except for the patio. Even the perimeter lights were on. Surprisingly, none of us were shaking from the stress that kind of adrenaline dump usually hits hard after sustained tension and confrontation. But somehow, we'd bypassed the shakes and just felt drained. Bobby told Serena to grab her things and put them away in her room. We were all planning to wind down in the pool and hot tub. I didn't bring a swimsuit, Serena said. Bobby gave her a look. Don't worry about that, we're just here to relax. We're what you're comfortable in. We all headed out to the pool. I was the first one in and turned to watch as Bobby and Serena followed. Serena looked small beside Bobby, but they moved together down the steps and eased into the water. Bobby reached out and pulled me into a light hug, turning me slightly so Serena could join in. The shared hug was warm, genuine, just people decompressing after a rough stretch. Serena added, this is just what we needed after a day like today. As she stepped back, she chuckled. I think we've earned this. Bobby nodded. You definitely have. That kind of stress doesn't fade quickly. We made our way to the hot tub next. Bobby helped steady me as we climbed out of the pool and into the bubbling water. She hit the blower motor, and the jets kicked in, surrounding us with gentle pressure and warmth. It was exactly what our muscles needed. With Serena on one side and Bobby on the other, we sat quietly for a moment, letting the warmth soak in. Serena leaned in slightly and said, you've had quite the day. Probably more than anyone else in your department in such a short time. Bobby agreed. No doubt about it. You've been through a lot, give yourself a break. Serena smiled. You're easy to be around, you know. Makes all this a bit lighter. Bobby grinned. That's one of his best qualities. Just then, the phone rang. Bobby was ready. She reached behind her and picked up the cordless from the table. Yeah? She said into the receiver. Okay, we're good. Did you notify the duty team? Great. We'll keep our eyes open. Thanks. Serena, and I looked at Bobby as she put the phone back down. There is apparently some kind of mega contract out on our guy here, and now sweet Serena, you and I are in on it. They're sending a couple of more teams out to watch us tonight, and are going to move us into the hotel tomorrow. The Bureau apparently got wind of it, and they're sending a team out here as well. Let's go in and get ready for bed. I think we should sleep in shifts tonight, with one of us awake all the time. Come on, let's get prepared. The girls dried me off, and not surprising was my pointer. It had quit pointing. They helped me in, carrying my legs so I could dress and be prepared in case I had to get up. Minutes later, we were all dressed, ready to take turns sleeping. Bobby said, I'll take the first 2 hours, then Serena, then you, Chad. Go to bed you two, and I mean in 2 separate beds. Try to get some sleep. Knowing I'm out here should relax you. It did. I was instantly asleep. Dear listeners, next part will release soon. Meanwhile, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.